While we recently discussed the 10 best video games of 2020 so far, we thought it would be prudent to point out some of the worst as well. As we move towards the next generation of console gaming, we hope that future games avoid the mishaps demonstrated among the following. The Outer Worlds is by all means a quality title on other platforms, but its Switch port release this year leaves much to be desired. The Outer Worlds is the most recent example of a game that did not need to be ported, especially if the quality did not stack up. Sure, the port features the whole game and the music holds up, but everything else leaves much to be desired, including its visuals, controls, load times, frame rate, and bugs. In our review, we noted that The Outer Worlds on the Switch looks bad and plays bad. With a name like Blood Rage, you might expect a beat-em-up or something with a B-movie style of humor. Somehow, Blood Rage turned out to be an adaptation of a board game. One that features game-breaking bugs, poor quality, and an overall bad user interface. Although the board game itself is great in real life, the video game adaptation does not reflect that quality. In our review, we noted that it's so unfortunate that the digital version of this game was released in such an unfinished state because at its core, there is a lot of promise. Those Who Remain is a psychological horror game that does a few things well, namely its atmosphere, spooky music, and creepy monsters. Those are typically positive attributes for a psychological horror game, but they usually require being combined with a strong narrative and gameplay. Unfortunately, the game lacks in both those departments despite having a strong setting. In the end of our review, we noted that there doesn't seem to be anything keeping this game safe from the gaping maw of irrelevance. The Xbox One has an issue with securing high-quality exclusive titles, so the acquisition of Ninja Theory, makers of Heavenly Sword and Hellblade's Senua's Sacrifice, and the announcement of Bleeding Edge, a new team-based title, were welcome news. Unfortunately, Ninja Theory's talents were perhaps best saved for their upcoming Hellblade sequel, rather than diverted to create a lackluster, team-based multiplayer title. In our review, we found that the game was uninspired and boring with only a couple redeeming qualities such as some neat character designs and a robust tutorial. A roguelike dungeon crawler with retro-styled pixelated graphics sounds like it could be a decent title, but Panjin proves that a good idea doesn't mean a good game. While the game features roguelike gameplay, a lack of narrative ambition and overall design condemn the game to failure. The procedurally generated environments also inadvertently cause the game to be stale. In our review, we commented on the graphics. The pixel graphics felt a lot less charming, and a lot more like that one old screensaver with the brick maze they used to have at my elementary school. Treachery in Beatdown City looks to bring together 16-bit visuals and a mixture of turn-based and beat-em-up combat. This sounds great on paper, but the formula just doesn't come together by the end of things. It fails in nearly every aspect: story, combat, and design. In our review, we found that what comes together to create the full package is very underwhelming. Despite featuring former NL MVP Christian Yelich on the cover, RBI Baseball 20 is a golden sombrero. It's a bad thing in baseball terms. Though the core mechanics of the sport have remained unchanged over the years, RBI Baseball 20 is still unable to get the formula right. With janky animations, bare bones options, and a general lack of fun, the game is among the worst of the year so far. In our review, we found that fielding and hitting both fail to capture any of the enjoyment you typically get from either video game baseball or the real thing, and the animations and character models are shockingly bad for a game released in 2020. The Resident Evil series has been killing it as of late, with successes in the remakes of RE2 and RE3, as well as Resident Evil Village being unveiled a short while ago. Unfortunately for Capcom, it isn't all uphill for the franchise, as Resident Evil Resistance is a stumble for the series' climb. Though not the third worst scoring game of the year so far, Resistance is among the highest profiled games with a bad score. While acting as the multiplayer component for RE3, Resistance has demonstrated incredibly poor combat mechanics, frame rate, map design, and a loss of fluidity in movement. Femita is a classic-styled point-and-click adventure game in which the player takes on the role of a criminal judge. The game revolves around the loop of making decisions in court, which ultimately affects the world, as well as the player character's life. While on paper, the game appears to be a decently fun time, its poor translation, poor pace, and overall unpolished push the game way up on this list. In our review, we noted that Femita tackles a few interesting subjects, but fails on its execution in nearly all regards. Cooking Mama has been a long-running franchise known for being accessible to gamers of all skill levels. Because of this, the games have garnered a decent following, and the announcement of a new Cooking Mama game for the Nintendo Switch, Cooking Mama Cookstar, generated a decent level of attention. Aside from the issues it faced with the launch itself, its monotonous gameplay and poor controls sank the title quickly. In our review, we concluded that Cookstar has nuked the kitchen and left us standing among a snowfall of ash and burnt chicken tikka masala.